Those moments of pain, heartbreak, grief, loss, and discomfort is for a reason. Most of the time, it's your journey to isolation. It's God putting things in place for your breakthrough. And most importantly, we must know that God and the universe is the source through it all. We must choose to always have faith. Welcome to Break the Cycles podcast, the space where we rebuild the woman behind the titles. I'm your host, Alicia Cherie. If you've been feeling a little disconnected lately, like the world is quieter than usual, friends are distant, or doors are closing, this episode is for you. Because what if this silence isn't punishment? What if it's preparation? Hey, soul sister. Before we dive in, make sure you followed and subscribed to this podcast so you never miss the next drop of healing energy. Also, if something in this episode speaks to your spirit, share it with a friend, a sister, or anyone who's walking their own healing journey. Because together, we're not just healing, we're evolving, expanding, and reclaiming our power. Now, let's get into today's episode. So, before we dive in, take a deep breath with me. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Let's ground in the reminder that everything happening right now is something for you, not to you. So many of us fear being alone, right? We attach, we chase, we fill space with noise. That's our human body response. We don't want to be alone. But isolation, it's often the universe's most sacred invitation to you. It's when God wants your attention. Sometimes he clears the room. I believe everything happens for a reason. And I know a lot of us have heard that before and it just never resonated, but maybe those calls from friends are slowing down because you don't resonate or vibe with them anymore. Or maybe you met someone who you can have this great relationship and connection on love, and then you're starting a family together. You're relocating to a new environment with them. Or maybe you lost your job that you've been at for years and you don't know what's next. Or maybe you lost a relative or friend and now trying to navigate through life without them. These are all unexpected life events that we go through. But whatever it is, these are shifts happening to you. And you must feel the nudge, you must see the signs, and most importantly, understand it's for a reason. In fact, I know many of you do see the signs. However, the human body response is to ignore them because we just don't want to accept it because it's not our norm. And at the time, it may seem like you are being tortured and it may be uncomfortable because that's exactly what it is change. The pain, the heartbreak, the grief, and the loss, it's all part of your journey. And we must embrace it. And I know what some of you are thinking right now, like, how do you embrace grief? How do you embrace loss? How do you embrace the pain and heartbreak? I'll just use grief and loss as an example. I'm not saying embrace the fact that you lost a loved one, but I'm saying embrace the fact that you loved. And it shows by the grief and loss you are enduring for that person. Many of us cannot even love because certain barriers and, past trauma prevents us from actually loving in an unconditional way. And many of us don't even know we love until that person is gone. However, the fact that you mourn their loss is due to the fact that you love them, and that is an amazing thing. And this is something that's so hard for us to see at the moment of time that we experience a grief and loss because we are so mad at the fact that that person is no longer here. But that's a lie. That person is still here. Because life is eternal. Yes, their body and soul transitioned over. However, their spirit is eternal. But here's the thing, to hear them, to feel them, and even sometimes see them, it ties back to quieting the noise and the chaos And that's exactly where the healing begins, in the quiet. Because in that quiet, your intuition gets louder, the messages, the downloads become more clear on top of the senses to see, to feel, to smell our loved ones. That transition is all part of it too. It really is. And I kind of derailed a little bit on grief and loss, but I wanted to really use that as an example because I just felt like that's where spirit guiding me today. And I'll go deeper into that in the future episodes. But this is all part of isolation, right? A lot of us don't realize at the time why these type of things are happening to us. So to get back on topic, if you really think about it, can you really elevate when you are around people or environments that don't resonate with your soul? Most of us are living a life now where we are living in force, or maybe we're feeling that pull, like, oh, I just don't want to do this anymore. Why? Because we're not walking in alignment with our dharma. We stop and sometimes never even started living as the soul we came here to be. So let's just do a quick reflection. Have you noticed areas in your life where silence is showing up? What might spirit be trying to tell you through that? And here's an example. I remember back after my divorce where I was still trying to suppress things and I would go out, Friday night, Saturday night, woohoo, it's here. I'm going to go out with my girlfriends. I'm going to have drinks, go dancing, da da da. And I was just like, sometimes I don't want to be around the noise. Do I really want to go out and go talk about Sally and all her dating problems or Missy's husband drama? Sometimes I just didn't want to hear all that. And that it was a spirit trying to tell me it's time to silence that noise. For me, isolation wasn't something I chose. And most of the time, it's not. It's God preparing us for our breakthrough. So He's putting these different occurrences in our life. And at the time, we don't see it, but it's something that He's placing there for a reason. And when I reflect back, my environment back home with my family was built on a lot of generational cycles that were never broken. I was the healer, the fixer, and the problem solver of the family for everyone, and it drained me. It wasn't necessarily that they took advantage of me, it was the fact that I enabled it. And when I was around my family, all we did the majority of the time was eat unhealthy, drink alcohol, smoke weed, go out and whatever. It was always surrounded around those. And that was our thing, and that was our way to bond. But really, it was a generational pattern we inherited from past generations to cope and deal with our worries and our stressors in life. When I met my ex husband, he took me out of that environment. I moved to Guam, and my family no longer had me as a source. And I was able to explore and find other hobbies that helped me cope and deal with my stressors and worries. I found myself scuba diving. Yeah, like 100 feet in the ocean floor. Um, and never in my life would I expected to do that. I have a fear of holding my breath underwater, but I was like, "Shh, give me that tank of air and I'm golden." I found other hobbies too. Like I started jogging and I don't even like running, but something about jogging in Guam because of the humidity, it was like a detox. Like, I just loved sweating. We went to the beach every weekend. We bought beach gear, canopies, grills, snorkeling gear. We had a little community. We were out there with our friends. I worked with a lot of the locals and we went to their barbecues and it was a community. And I didn't really have that back home. None of that, and I just enjoyed it so much, and I felt like for once in my life, I could focus on my family and myself, and I believe this was my first experience of feeling free and liberated. We then moved back to California after a few years because my ex was just stationed there, it was his last duty stationed, and then all those patterns seemed to come back. The eating, the drinking, the smoking, being the fixer, the helper. And this time it was the caretaker. Some of this was also by divine timing. For instance, my grandfather had a severe stroke, which caused me to move back, like literally back to my hometown to help take care of him. And then, like 4 to 6 months later, my mom was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, which I then became her caretaker too. Again, those are things that we don't predict, right? Those events, I never would have expected any of that. And then after a few years, we had to relocate to Hawaii. My ex's children were out here and we needed to attend to them. And it was during COVID, and my mom was still battling cancer. So I was traveling back and forth between Hawaii and California. But I just knew the first time I had put foot on this beautiful island, it was for me. This was my place. I knew it. But this is also the time when God says, it's time to strip everything from you. A year later, my mom passed. Then 3 weeks later, I divorced from my husband. There were months I felt completely alone, and I wasn't, because I still had my 2 beautiful, loving, caring daughters. At the time of my divorce and grieving of my mom, I decided to stay in Hawaii as I felt this instant connection, like I said. There was just no way I could leave it. Part of me felt like, yes, with all this grief and loss I'm experiencing, I need to be with my family. However, the nudge and signs was to stay, because little did I know, God was preparing me for my spiritual awakening. So I stood, me, 2 daughters, very few friends, and just the ocean waves and my own thoughts. But it was there in that solitude that I started hearing myself again. I reconnected with my body, my energy, and most importantly, my intuition. That's when I began writing, meditating, diving into energy work like Reiki and chakras. Not because it was trendy, but because it became survival. And somewhere in that silence, I realized isolation wasn't a setback. It was a sacred space for transformation. So let's just pause for another quick reflection and ask yourself this. What moments of isolation have actually protected you rather than punished you? Think about that. Where it wasn't punishment, it was more of a reward or protection. Let's go a little deeper. So, energetically, isolation aligns with the crown chakra, your connection to the divine wisdom and spiritual downloads. This is why spiritual awakening unfolded right then and there for me. I just lost the 2 most important relationships in my life, my mother and my ex husband. Not to mention, this was all during COVID when the island was shut down. I had no friends. Maybe a few at the time, and I just had my 2 daughters. And this is where it all began. Even though I felt like I lost everything, the journey to isolation then transformed to my journey of solitude. I have to say though, Hawaii was the best place for it because I had the ocean and had this beautiful nature. But there is a difference between isolation and solitude. Isolation is when your separation from others or the world feels forced upon you, whether that's by circumstances, trauma, or emotional shutdown. We talked about most of it being circumstantial. Emotional shutdowns can tie to those circumstances or those occurrences that happen, right? The loss, the heartbreak, the grief, all of that. Isolation is the shadow side of solitude. It's often the soul's cry for healing. It's a sign that your inner child or your wounded self is asking for connection, love, and safety. Whereas solitude is the choice to be with yourself. It's not necessarily forced on you. However, it goes hand in hand because isolation is these occurrences happening. So it's kind of like aligning you to solitude, but solitude is actually a choice within yourself. It's when you intentionally retreat from noise to hear your own soul speak. Instead of feeling cut off, you feel connected to God, to Source, to your inner guidance. Solitude is empowered aloneness. It's where healing turns into awakening. It's beautiful, y'all. When your environment quiets, that energy center activates. It's the universe whispering, I'm trying to speak to you, because he can't speak to you through all the noise. That's when you feel those nudges or hear your inner voice because it may be saying, don't go out tonight. You don't need to be around that noise. And when you hear or feel it, embrace it because I fought it. I'm not gonna lie. I fought it and then I found myself still going out being like, no, it's Saturday night. I worked my butt off this week and I'm still sad and depressed from my divorce. I'm going out and hanging out with my girls and I'm gonna get drunk, blah, 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 right? But then even when you do that, guess what the universe did? It was like, okay, go ahead, go, Alicia, go out. And I did. But when I did, I was like, ugh, the more I kept doing it, the more I just kept feeling like I didn't want to be there. And one of my last straws I remember was my girlfriend seeing me just zoned out. And this was still early on in the night. Like I was just zoned out and she was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I just don't want to be here." And she's like, "Why? Let's have some more shots. It'll make you feel better." And I'm like, "No, I just want to go home and be with my girls." And I looked at her and I'm like, "I'm sorry. I can't do this tonight." And I got up, I called the Uber, and I went home and I cuddled with my girls, and that was it. I That was my last straw. I cut off everything and just went into my solitude era. You can decide not to embrace it at the time that you feel that nudge, but the more you keep fighting it, the more the universe and God is still going to pull you. And you're going to feel that pull more and it's going to get stronger until you finally just surrender and you're just like, "Okay, I can't fight this." So let's reflect here for a minute to put this all into context. Those moments of pain, heartbreak, grief, loss, and discomfort is for a reason. Most of the time, it's your journey to isolation. It's God putting things in place for your breakthrough. Even though at the time we don't see it because most of the time we're too busy playing the victim. Like, why is this happening to me? Questioning God's actions and motives. Like, why would you do this to me? But we must pay attention to the nudge and the signs and our instincts. And most importantly, we must know that God and the universe is the source through it all. We must choose to always have faith, believe, and surrender. But most importantly, have faith because once you lose faith, it's over. You have to still have faith in God that He knows what He's doing and that He won't put you through situations that you cannot handle because He will always have your back. You have to have faith that God is doing this for a reason, whether it's preparing you for your breakthrough or to teach you a lesson. You have to have that faith through the good, the bad, the ugly, through it all. And you have to believe that He does have your back. And you have to surrender to that faith and that belief. So if you're feeling detached from your old world, don't fight it because your vibration is shifting. Not everyone or everything can rise with you. Those same friends you can't take with you. Those relationships or one of your relationships you thought was going to last forever, it ended because you cannot take them with you. And that's okay. Be okay with that. Embrace the journey. Take the lessons from the pain and get ready for your evolution because it does transpire into something beautiful. I promise you. I can speak that with confidence. I promise. Let's take another moment and do a journaling prompt. Or you can write this down and go back to it later. Ask yourself, what have I learned about myself in solitude that I couldn't hear in the noise? That reflection will show you just how much growth your spirit has been calling in. Hey, my soul sister. If you've been feeling off lately, maybe drained, stuck, or disconnected from your purpose, I want you to know it's not all in your head, it's in your energy. That's why I created my free chakra healing guide, your simple roadmap to understanding the 7 energy centers in your body and how they shape your emotions, your clarity, and your flow. So, if you're ready to feel balanced, grounded, and in your power again, check the show notes below to download your free chakra healing guide to transform your energy from the inside out. So, we talked a little bit about, isolation and transitioning to solitude. I'm going to kind of touch on how we embrace this. and how it eventually starts to turn into the alignment stage of things. And there's many ways, but I'm just going to cover like 5 here for now, and then, future episodes will definitely expand on alignment because that is a huge part of my framework. So, the first one to turn isolation into alignment is create rituals of stillness. This can be morning meditation, it could be ocean walks, grounding yoga, spaces where your mind can breathe. Like, do the things that resonate and nourish your soul so you can hear your inner voice of intuition more clearly. Meditation, like, I cannot stress how important it is. I actually do feel it's for everyone. I feel that a lot of people are reluctant to it because they think they can't do it. But here's the thing, these are practices, right? So in the beginning, nothing's going to feel like you can do it because it's outside of your norm. That's the point. That's the purpose of growth is to feel uncomfortable. It's not supposed to be comfortable. If it was comfortable, everybody would do it and the world would be a better place. I just listened to a podcast, Michael Beckwith. God bless you, Michael. Love his podcast. He was addressing there's no right or wrong way of meditating. That's the beautiful thing about it. It's literally quieting the mind and listening to your body. But a lot of people, they say this, oh, I can't do it because I can't quiet my mind. My mind's always racing. I just can't quiet. Well, honey, that's why you need to meditate. Okay. And here's the thing you don't have to have open space or an altar set up or incense burning or a candle lit or your hands don't need to be a certain way. You don't need to sit straight up. You can do this out of your bed when you wake up and you start small, just like everything else, with no pressure. You start with maybe 5 minutes to 10 minutes a day. And you don't jump into it and be like, okay, I'm going to do this every day. No, because then that's where the ego's gonna come in and be like, I don't wanna do this every day. Normally, that's not how you create healthy habits. Start off twice a week and then gradually increase it as your body is more open to it because what's gonna happen is the more you meditate, the more you're gonna realize that it does quiet your mind. And then it becomes an addiction where you're just like, "Ugh, I wanna go a step deeper. I wanna quiet my mind, but I wanna do it longer this time," and then you're gonna feel the results from that. And then it starts going from twice a week to 3 times a week to daily, and then it starts going to, I don't even need to know when I wanna meditate, I just do it. And if you don't wanna start meditation, go on walks, ground with the earth. There's so many ways, you just have to have stillness. Next one is detach with love. When people or environments drift, bless them and release them. If you are starting to feel different around the same group of friends or just not interested in the things they do, then detach yourself. This is hard for a lot of us because we grow up sometimes with childhood friends and it's like they became our family. But here's the thing, just because you're detaching doesn't mean that you're forgetting them. And you can still love from a distance. I'm not saying detach means you're never going to talk to them again. No, I'm saying that, hey, I'm on this journey now, and this is my interest, and this is where I'm going. Invite them to join you, and if they don't, then detach with love. And that's all you gotta do. Keep in touch from time to time, maybe, or maybe you don't. Whatever is a healthy boundary for you. Don't feel guilty in it because you're not just trying to write them off and forget about them. Third one, listen before reacting. This was a big one for me. And this is where I got it wrong. A lot of our reactions is fear talking. It's not the tuition guiding. So most of the time, the first reaction is our unhealed inner child reacting. So don't react first. Listen and breathe first. And this is where I got it backwards because my inner child was full of a lot of anger and sadness, and I didn't want to address it. To be honest, I didn't want to go and face it. And so I derailed it a little bit. But because I derailed that part, the listen before reacting is delayed too. So I'm telling you, until you heal your inner child, she will continue to grow and live with you through every stage of your life. You have to go back and kill her, and I'll have a future episode on that, so stay tuned because it's deep, y'all, and it's uncomfortable, but you must do it. So listen and breathe first before you react. Fourth one, nourish your energy. Eat grounding foods, take salt baths, and connect with nature. Remember, you're rebuilding from within. Nourishing your energy is a form of self care. And these both regulate your nervous system and get you out of that fight and flight state. Because during the noise and the chaos, that's exactly what your body is in. It's in a fight and flight state. You don't feel safe. You don't feel protected. You cannot heal until you feel safe and protected and calm your nervous system. You can't get deep into this healing journey. You just cannot. There's no way around it. One of the biggest things for me even was eating grounding foods, and let me tell you, it's a game changer. And I will also have a future episode on that, so stay tuned. Last one, and this one's huge, y'all. Trust divine timing. The universe never removes without replacing. Never. It just needs you to stay still long enough to receive. Don't be quick to suppress things by not staying still. And it's natural for the human body to do whatever to release the pain and the hurt. However, sometimes if we just chose to stay still, we catch the lesson early on and then we can start moving differently. And that's one thing that I didn't do instantly. I didn't trust divine timing. I was like, I don't care, like, especially all the grief I went through in, like, 3 years, I lost, like, 7 people, I was like, "I want this to just stop. I wanna get out of it and do anything I can to just speed this process up," but sometimes God is just like, "Child, just stay still." And sometimes you gotta stay in that emotion, the pain, the heartbreak, like, you gotta sit in it, and then God's like, "Okay, you're ready to come out," and then when you come out, you move differently moving forward. Because now I'm at a time and place in my life where no matter what happens, good or the bad, I know and I trust that it's divine timing. Whatever it is, like, somebody ran into my car, I'm like, I'm mad, but hey, I trust in divine timing, there was a reason for this." And that is the beautiful thing about it is when you trust divine timing, it helps you navigate through life a little bit better and accept, um when things happen, you don't even question that anymore. So, just to close, if you're in that season right now or feeling these nudges or seeing signs, I want you to know you are not alone nor forgotten. You are being refined. And even though it's lonely, just know you're being aligned. So, take this episode as your permission slip to rest and pause. Remember that even when no one sees you, God, spirit, and the universe is still moving mountains for you behind the scenes. You are exactly where you're meant to be. Until next time, keep choosing you, keep healing, and keep breaking the cycles.